Welcome to Epic Stories. It was one of those cold, bone-deep London evenings where even the fog felt heavy with secrets, and Sherlock Holmes, seated by the window of 221B Baker Street, played a somber melody on his violin that echoed like a lament through the room. I, Dr. John Watson, sat opposite him, the firelight dancing on the worn wood of my cane, watching the flicker of something dark pass over Holmes's usually unreadable face. He had grown quieter over the past few days, more inward, as if wrestling with ghosts that had no name. Suddenly, he set the violin aside and said, without turning his gaze from the street below, "Watson, something is returning. Something I buried 10 years ago, but it refuses to stay dead." Before I could respond, Mrs. Hudson entered with a sealed, scorched brown envelope, her hand trembling slightly. Holmes took it with the delicacy of a bomb disposal expert, sliced it open, and withdrew a postcard blackened around the edges, with a single line scrawled in an uneven hand. "Death returns to 221B. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Moments later, after a brief chemical test on the card, hidden text emerged. "The fire returns where it once began. Holloway Asylum." I knew that name too well. Edward Bell. A case Holmes had closed a decade ago, but never emotionally left. Bell had been unlike any murderer we had ever faced, a former printer turned psychotic who believed that newspapers whispered secrets to him at night, guiding his kills. He'd carved messages from obituaries into his victims' teeth, replacing them with slivers of paper soaked in glue and ink, smiling with horror at the press he once served. Holmes had hunted him relentlessly, and though he claimed to have caught him, Bell had never truly haunted prison walls. He had haunted Holmes. We journeyed to Holloway under the weight of unspoken truths. The asylum stood abandoned, the windows blind, the corridors cracked and moss-covered, but inside it still breathed madness. In a hallway thick with shadows, we found a man, half mad, muttering Bell's name, clutching a leather-bound journal. The final page read, "Sherlock, you failed me." The diary listed every known victim, but now there were new names, including mine. My own throat tightened as Holmes scanned the list, but his voice remained cold, sharp as ever. "He's rewriting the ending." A crash of footsteps followed, and from the dark emerged a wild figure, a former guard loyal to Bell, fanatical in the eyes. He attacked, but Holmes disarmed him with a flick of his cane and pinned him to the wall. Through manic ramblings, the truth spilled. Bell had faked his death. The guard confessed to helping orchestrate the ruse, staging Bell's suicide, burning false remains and feeding rumors to the press. For 10 years, Bell had rebuilt himself, creating a cult-like following of dispossessed men who believed in his twisted gospel of ink and vengeance. And now, he was back. The guard, foaming at the mouth, attempted suicide with a capsule of belladonna. But Holmes had anticipated it, flicking the vial from his hand just in time. The man was taken into custody, screaming Bell's name like a prayer. As we walked home under gaslight and ash-gray skies, Holmes seemed older, wearier, as if this case had never left him. "Do you believe he's alive?" I asked, knowing the answer. Holmes didn't look at me. His eyes scanned the shadows, as though expecting Bell's silhouette to step from the mist at any moment. "Some enemies," he said softly, "are not men, Watson. They are echoes, and echoes never truly die." That night, I watched him as he stood by the window long after the fire had died, the violin silent in its corner, and I understood. Edward Bell was not just a killer Holmes had once defeated. He was a part of Holmes himself, a shadow stitched into the seams of his mind, waiting only for the dark to awaken.